The last time I saw my mother before that day, I was just 19 years old. I remember sitting on the steps outside our old, broken house. The wood was soft from rain, and the air smelled like old trash. In front of me were two big black garbage bags. They were full of my clothes. My mother didn't hand them to me gently. She threw them out of the second-floor window. She shouted down at me, "Your room is for your brother now. You're too old to live here for free." There was no goodbye. No hug. Not even a look of love. I dragged those bags into the dark that night, and I felt like my name had been erased from that house. That was 7 long years ago. Now I was 26. In those years, I had survived 4 different jobs, 2 evictions, and 1 cold winter sleeping in a car that didn't even start half the time. But slowly, step by step, I built something. I had a small apartment. A real bed. A kitchen that was mine. I had a job that paid every 2 weeks. I had friends who didn't treat me like a mistake. For the first time, I didn't feel like a burden. And still, I showed up that Saturday. Not because I owed her anything. Not because I forgot what she did. I came because I heard she was sick. My little cousin had sent me a message online. "Auntie Mara is going through chemo. She has stage 2 breast cancer." I sat there, staring at the message for a long time. I didn't know how to feel. This was the same woman who threw me away like garbage. But something inside me whispered, "Go." So I went. I bought a used blazer from a thrift shop. I asked for a half-day off work. I got on a Greyhound bus and rode back to the city that made me feel small. When I got to the house, I stood in front of the same old door. The red paint was peeling. The numbers were rusted. I took a deep breath and knocked. A stranger opened the door. He looked me up and down like I was dirty. "Who are you?" he asked. "I'm Delaney," I said. "Mara's daughter." He raised his eyebrows. "Oh, you're that one. That one." He stepped aside and let me in without another word. The inside of the house hadn't changed at all. The walls were still stained yellow from smoke. The plastic flowers were still fake and dusty. The vases were still cracked. The air felt heavy, like old pain that never left. My sister Tasha was standing near the window. She was dressed like a mannequin from a fancy store. Her smile was fake, painted on like makeup. "Well, look what the alley dragged in," she said coldly. "Hi," I said softly. She didn't hug me. She didn't even move closer. Instead, she shouted toward the hallway, "Mom, your project from the past is here." I heard the sound of heels clicking on the floor. Slow. Sharp. Like a judge walking into a courtroom. Then she appeared, my mother. She was shorter than I remembered. Her hair was thinner. But her eyes were still hard. Hard enough to cut someone in half. She wore a shiny champagne-colored dress with glitter on it. It didn't match the moment at all. She stopped about 5 feet away from me. I opened my arms. I wanted, just for a second, for her to hug me. Her face twisted like I smelled bad. She stepped back and snapped, "Don't wrinkle my dress with your poverty." My arms fell to my side. Tasha laughed. "Wow," she said. "You really thought this was going to be a moment." I stood there in my cheap heels holding a small gift bag. Inside was a lavender scarf. Her favorite color. I'd saved for weeks to buy it. "I came because I heard you were sick," I said. She tilted her head. "So now you want credit for being decent? You didn't call. You didn't visit. You left. You kicked me out," I whispered. "Oh, please," she hissed. "You always made everything harder. Always complaining. Always weak." I had 2 other kids to raise, not just a storm cloud walking around my house. I looked at Tasha. She was smirking, proud of how cruel Mom was. You came here for what? Mom asked. Forgiveness? Closure? Go to church for that. I swallowed. My throat burned. I just thought you might want to see me, I said quietly. She leaned in close. I could smell her strong perfume and something colder underneath, bitterness. You're lucky we let you live here as long as we did, she whispered. Trash gets taken out eventually. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I placed the scarf on the table and said softly, that's all. Then I turned around and walked out. But that wasn't the end. That was the start. I didn't cry until I reached the end of the street. But the tears weren't sad anymore. They were hot. Angry. Powerful. I sat at the bus stop, holding the empty gift bag. My hands were shaking. People passed by without seeing me. But inside me, something cracked open. I was done being small. I was done being silent. That night, I opened a notebook and wrote 3 lists. 1. What they said I was. 2. Who I really am. 3. What they would lose next. I didn't have rich friends. I didn't have family who cared. I didn't have power. But I had something strong, time, memory, and proof. The first thing I did was fix what they broke. I applied for my birth certificate. I looked into every financial record. That's when I found it. When I was 17, my mom had taken a loan in my name. A shady loan. She never paid it. That's why my credit was ruined. She stole from me before I even knew what credit meant. I filed a report. I got it removed. That wasn't revenge. That was justice. Then came phase 2. My sister Tasha was planning a big wedding. The same cousin who messaged me sent me an invite. The venue was fancy. Gold and navy theme. I clicked going quietly. They didn't care. They thought I was still the poor girl. They didn't know I had changed. Over the last 2 years, I had worked hard. I'd been promoted twice. I was now assistant to a director at a private grant foundation. We gave money to small businesses. I had power they didn't know about. 3 weeks before the wedding, a grant request landed on my desk. It was from Daniel and Mara's catering services. My mom and her husband. They wanted funding. Their proposal was full of fake photos and pretty words. But the name was real. And it came to me. I didn't reject it. I didn't scream. I followed the rules. I passed it to our compliance team. It turned out their tax papers were a mess. They hadn't renewed their food license since 2019. They listed people as workers who hadn't worked there in years. One of those names was mine. I didn't report them out of anger. I simply did my job. And that was enough. By the time Tasha's rehearsal dinner came, Mom was busy dealing with state audit letters. She didn't even notice that I had RSVP'd. I showed up wearing a simple black dress. Nothing loud. But it was mine. Bought with my own money. When I walked into that fancy hall, heads turned. Not because I was shining, but because I no longer looked like the broken girl they remembered. Mom saw me and hissed, "You're not supposed to be here." I RSVP'd, I said calmly. "Didn't you check the list?" Tasha came over in her shiny dress. Her eyes were full of anger. "You have 60 seconds before I call security," she said. I smiled. "Then let's make them count." I opened my clutch and pulled out a folded letter. It was the official notice from the compliance investigation. "You'll want to read this before Monday," I said. "Wouldn't want any distractions on your big wedding week." I put it on the table and walked away. Behind me, I heard my mother gasp. I heard Tasha shout, "What is this? What did you do?" I didn't turn around. This wasn't revenge. This was justice stretching its arms. The audit came fast. The funding was frozen. The state licensing board got notified. Investigators discovered fake events, fake work hours, and fraud. My mother and her husband had to return the money. Their business was banned from getting future grants. Their reputation was ruined. But I didn't brag. I didn't post about it online. I just kept living. The following Monday, I helped approve funding for another woman. A single mom who actually wanted to build a real bakery. In the same neighborhood. That was the win I wanted. Not their fall. My rise. 2 months later, I got a phone call. It was my father, the man who left when I was 9. I heard what happened to your mom, he said. Maybe we can talk. I laughed softly. You all come crawling when the meal's gone cold, I said. I just think you need family, he said. You're right, I answered. I do need family. That's why I'm building one that starts with me, not ends with you. Then I hung up. That same day, I took down the last picture I had of me and Mom. It was from a school play. The frame was cracked. I threw it away. No music. No tears. Just silence. And peace. I changed my number. I moved to a new apartment. It wasn't fancy, but it had sunlight, space, and quiet. One morning, months later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a check for $7,632, the exact price of the dress I wore to the wedding. On the back, in Mom's handwriting, it said, "This is what you're worth. Hope it buys your pride." I smiled. I walked outside to a corner where a homeless teenager sat with a cardboard sign. I handed him the check. He looked up, confused. Why? He asked. Because someone once told me that's all I was worth, I said softly. Now it's yours. Prove them wrong. He blinked. Then tucked the check into his jacket. I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. The people who treat you like you're nothing, like your poverty, let them rot in their fancy rooms. I wasn't poor anymore. I was rich in something they'd never earn. Self-respect. Memory. The strength to walk away without breaking. Let them keep their shiny dresses clean. I'll keep my soul clean. Please like and subscribe for more videos, also comment where you're watching from.